My hometown, Borazdino, around 40 hours east of Moscow, has been quietly removed from existence. You can no longer find it on any maps or on the internet. I escaped, and now I need to warn you about what happened, because I think this was just the start. I remember the small town of Borazdino as it was before the rain, surrounded by rolling hills and vast fields of crops. The town was quaint and quiet, with a population of only a few thousand people who were tightly knit and friendly to outsiders, on the extremely rare occasion an outsider ever visited. We were not exactly on anyone's list of must-visit places, and most people who left Borazdino never came back, except to occasionally visit old relatives. The town center was marked by a large square that hosted a bustling open-air market. The market was surrounded by small shops and restaurants, an onion-domed Orthodox church, and a Soviet-era municipal building. But everything changed in an instant when the rain arrived, and I'll never forget the terror that followed. It started as a gentle rain that slowly intensified until it became a flood. The once calm streets of Borazdino transformed into rushing rivers, and the tranquil countryside became a mire of water and debris. The sound of rain hitting the rooftops and windows was relentless, and the wind was howling outside. Something inside me told me it was best to stay inside, and I huddled in my home, seeking shelter from the relentless storm. The rain fell unabated for days, causing widespread damage and chaos. The power went out, and the internet and phone lines went down. My once peaceful hometown now felt like a place of despair and isolation. During those days, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. The storm seemed to have a malevolent energy to it, as if it was something more than just a natural phenomenon. It was as if the rain was trying to wash away the town, to clean it of its inhabitants. After 3 or 4 days, the rain finally eased. It was still coming down, but no longer was it as thick and heavy, like a waterfall on our town. I opened my door to stand in the doorway, and was immediately assaulted with a smell that I could not place. The closest thing I could describe it as is a mixture of sewage and candy, one part sweet, the other repulsive. It almost smelt like it was coming in waves. The streets were covered with a layer of water, which had an almost sparkly luminance running through it. It was then that I noticed something peculiar. The ground was teeming with new, small plants. They were fungal-like, skinny, and twisted, with thorny branches that seemed to move on their own. The plants were unlike anything I had ever seen before. I was sure they weren't there 3 days ago, so must have been growing at an unprecedented rate. I pulled my jacket hood up and stepped outside to have a closer look. The plants had a strange allure to them. They seemed to emit a soft glow, giving off an airy luminance that added to their mystique. The leaves were a vibrant shade of green, and the thorns were a deep, ominous black and white. The way the branches twisted and turned gave the plants an almost sentient quality, and it was as if they were moving on their own. I decided to survey the damage to the rest of the town, so I set off down the street, trudging through ankle-high water. The large square that hosted the bustling open-air market was waterlogged and muddy, with water in many areas. The stalls and merchandise that were once bustling with activity were damaged, some completely destroyed, and debris from the market was scattered throughout the square. The small shops and restaurants surrounding the market also suffered damage, with broken windows, water damage, and even a collapsed roof. The Orthodox church and municipal building was also visibly affected, with the church's exterior showing water damage and leaks, and the municipal building appearing to experience structural damage. But it was the plants that truly worried me. They were growing everywhere, and not just the ones like at my place, but all sorts. Thick, thin, colorful, black, and white, and some seemed to be glowing in the rain. This didn't make any sense. Such rapid growth was unprecedented, and these plants were unlike any I had seen before. I noticed Dmitri in his cafe, moving furniture around and away from the water that had come in through his smashed front window. "Hey Dmitri, let me help," I said, walking in out of the rain. I grabbed the other end of a table he was trying to lift and helped him move it on top of another. "Thanks, Alex," he said, wiping some sweat from his brow. "How long have you been down here?" I asked as we grabbed some old chairs and lifted them up to the tabletop. "Too long. The water once stopped coming in. I wanted to get some sandbags from Anna's farm on the other side of the Obry, but the bridge has been washed away," he grunted. Obry is the name of the river that runs around our town, and the bridge is the only way in or out, so don't expect any help anytime soon then, huh? I said. Dmitri just laughed. After a few minutes of helping move more items off the floor, I asked Dmitri, "What do you make of those?" and nodded my head toward the plants. He looked at them, then at me. I thought I saw a genuine look of fear in his eyes. "Nothing good," was all he said. The rain persisted throughout the night. Although it was less deafening on my roof than the previous few nights, I managed to drift off to sleep more easily, but my slumber was plagued by nightmarish visions of strange creatures and extraterrestrial beings. Whenever I tried to flee from them, I found myself slowed down by the water and the plants, which seemed to grasp at me and hold me back. Suddenly, I was jolted awake by the sound of breaking glass. My initial thought was that it could be a looter, so I cautiously made my way downstairs to investigate. However, the reality was even more terrifying than I could have imagined. Thorny vines from the plants outside had smashed through my front window, writhing and thrashing as if searching for something. And then it dawned on me. They were searching for me. The realization sent shivers down my spine as I stood there, frozen with horror. I ran back upstairs, hastily dressed, and grabbed a few personal belongings to stuff into my backpack. I then ran back downstairs and flung open the back door. I was petrified. The plants were everywhere, and so much bigger than before. I bolted out into the pouring rain, taking the side path of my house and onto the street. Every step was a challenge, as I had to dodge and leap over wriggling vines that seemed to reach out for me. I looked on in horror, as the plants had spread their tentacles throughout the entire town, bursting through walls and windows. My neighbor was standing at his front door, writhing in agony as numerous vines had penetrated his skin and were moving under his flesh. As he weakly reached out to me for aid, I mouthed, "I'm sorry," for there was nothing I could do. The once familiar streets were now unrecognizable, replaced by a dense forest of thorns, leaves, and vines that choked the very life out of the town. As I made my way through the town, I saw people and pets being absorbed by the plants, their screams of terror ringing in my ears. It was as if the plants were alive, consuming anything and everything in their path with a sinister hunger. It was a nightmare come to life, a dystopian world where nature had turned against us. I knew I had to escape, to find a way out of this horror show before it was too late. The rain continued to pound down on me, soaking me to the bone, but I didn't care. All that mattered was getting as far away from this hellish town as possible. As I ran, I could feel the plants getting closer and closer, as if they were hunting me down. It was a race against time, a desperate bid for survival. And then, after what felt like hours of running, I saw it, the edge of the town. The plants were thinner here, as if their power waned as they got farther from the town. However, I didn't slow down until I was out of town completely. I crossed the normally docile river, now raging after all the rain, and barely made it to the other side without being washed away. I collapsed by the side of the road, gasping for breath, and only then I allowed myself to relax just a little. I had made it out alive, and for the first time in days, I was finally out of the rain. Yet over the river, I could see the rain still pouring down over the town. I was alerted by a faint rumble in the distance, causing me to turn my gaze away from the town and down the road. It was then that I noticed tanks and jeeps approaching the town, and I decided I would be best to leave before their arrival. I made a hasty retreat through the fields, embarking on a long journey to the next town. 4 days have elapsed since then, and I am now in the neighboring town. However, I am faced with an unsettling discovery. My town has been wiped off the internet entirely. All online records, including maps, have been blurred or digitally erased, and no information about the town can be found. To make matters worse, Reports indicate a new storm system is brewing across Europe, and it is expected to last for weeks. I cannot shake off the feeling that my town was a mere test, used to ascertain the possibility of terraforming our planet. And now, I believe it has passed the test.